My name's Erica Keegan,
My name is Kate Nikars.
and we're doing a presentation about universities that have biomedical engineering in them, and we're just laying out some statistics to help understand how it all works out. So to start off, we have ASU. So the tuition for ASU is about, if you're staying on campus, it's about 10,000 for the actual tuition rate, and then 12,000 for your dorm, with an additional 1,000 for your books. So this is with scholarship, of course. So without a scholarship, it's going to cost you about 30,000 a year. However, if you're not going to ASU and instead you're commuting, so instead of staying on campus, you'd just be staying at home, assuming that you live in Arizona. Then it only costs you about 1,080 a year, not counting your tuition, because you're basically just driving, and it's about $80 to $90 a month for gas to going that amount of distance. So next we have the ASU programs that they accept. So like pretty much all universities in America, they accept AP, IB, and dual enrollment. So AP credits they transfer. They actually give you more credits than IB would give you. And there's a bit more restrictions on IB because they just depends on the date in which you take your exam. So say you take it like at a past the due date or a certain date that ASU wants, then you just can't do it. Then they just won't accept the credits. And for dual enrollment, if you are attending the dual enrollment, then it transfers. But say you attend dual enrollment and then you transfer say you after high school you attend community college and then you want to go to ASU, then you're just going to be considered a transfer student. So that means your scholarship will also be treated like a transfer student. So acceptance rate, it's about 84.8%. You have a pretty high acceptance rate, so good chance you'll get in. Average SAT score is about 22 to 28, so there's a broad range. You can score anything between that, you'll be fine, most likely. SAT, if you don't want to do your ACT, then as you can see, it's about 1,100 to 1,360. And then for GPA, you need a minimum of 3.0. I mean, I'm sure there are occasions where you can get like a 2.9 or a 2.8, but you probably have to blow them away with an ACT score of like 36 or something. Or like 34. So for the essay, the questions change every year, and it's hard to see them unless you have a specific account for the college. So typically though, you have one essay that you just have to write about, and then if you want to go to the honors college, which is Barrett, you got to do another essay. Scholarships, they have 4 of them. The max is the presidential, which gives you 10,000, and the minimum, I'm pretty sure, is the dean's scholarship, which only gives you 5,000. And of course, depending on what scholarship you get, it really is because of your grades or your GPA or your standardized test scores. And you can also get excess aid. It just depends on your financial scenario and what different processes you go through. This is the campus. Very beautiful. It's fun. I personally like the buildings. I think they look cool. Architecture's good. So for biomedical engineering specifically, it's number 33 in the nation, which is higher than I thought it'd be, just because I didn't really think of biomedical engineering as something ASU is specialized in. And as a whole, ASU is number 103 in the nation, with number 1 in innovation, which they like to brag about a lot. It's cool though. They have a lot of cool stuff going on and they're constantly building, so I recommend it.
Okay, so the next university we're going to talk about is Johns Hopkins. So their tuition, it can range a little bit, but for undergraduates, it's normally around $54,160. And this tuition, it has taken into account COVID. So it's kind of like it's less than a normal year by about 10%. And the graduate tuition, that hasn't changed because of Corona, and it stayed at $57,010 on average. And for the room and board expenses on campus, it's around $16,000. And off campus, it's around $12,000. The housing, for like the board and expenses on campus, it comes with the package of like housing for all your like housing needs, and it comes with a food budget as well. For off campus or commuting, it's a little it's there's not a lot of exact like amounts, but mostly it's just driving yourself around and sticking to a kind of like a more surrounding schedule around the school so you can like stay on schedule because you're not on campus all the time. So for John Hopkins, it also has APIB and dual enrollments. Most of the AP courses, it's just like classes that a student can take if they have high grades, but there has to be like proof for that. And it's just a course for people who want to have a higher grade, I guess. The IB enrollment system, uh, the IB enrollment system, it looks for students who have like really high grades. It's more selective, and it tends to be more like allowing of student. That's not the correct word. It you focus on the school more in IB, and you like get more out there with clubs and sports in IB. And for the dual enrollment programs, it's basically a program where if you start at the beginning of your college years, you can get more degrees or more like usage of your classes instead of taking like so many more classes. If you were to take two separate degrees, you can work for 2 degrees at the same time for 5 years straight instead of something like 8 or 9. So, John Hopkins acceptance rates, it was around 9.2% last year. John Hopkins is a little bit more picky when it comes to students, or a lot more picky compared to ASU. And the admission requires for students' grades to be really good, and you have to have like a high GPA, and you need to show that you're thinking out of the box, and you need to show that you're working. So the essay that they make you do, so you can be like looked at and see if you're good for the school, it's they focus on collaborative work, and they also make the essay really long. It needs to be about 300 to 400 words so they can gather like your knowledge and how you work, so they can deem if you're good for the school or not. So for scholarships and financial aid, there are a lot of scholarships at John Hopkins. Most of them, they're like pretty normal, like sports scholarships or like good grade scholarships. Some other scholarships are from sponsoring organizations from like different companies or something. And the financial aid, it helps students that are on campus most of the time. If you're on campus or off campus, it gets a little not it's different from on campus, but on campus they normally like they cover you with housing and with like food, and they mostly cover everything you're going to need from your year on campus at school. Off campus, it just worries about your tuition and your some of your class supplies. So these are some images. It's a very castle-like place. It's yeah,
Very pretty.
yeah. So the rankings, it was ranked actually number 9 in national universities, which I did not expect. It was ranked 16 in best valued schools, and ranked 12 in most innovative schools. So it's not It's far behind ASU, but it's there.
They're also, I think, number one for biomedical engineering, so that's always
Yeah. I
funky, very fun.
yeah.
These are just videos about engineering and biomedical engineering, comparing between ASU and Johns Hopkins. They didn't pop up, so we just put the links there if anybody's interested. So the next one we're going to talk about is Georgia Institute of Technology, GIT. So tuition rate there, it's about 12,000 if you're in state, and then 33,000 if you're out of state, and then room and board is about 11,000, with books and supplies being about 800 on average, which is cheaper than most places. I know ASU at least had like 1,000, so you save a couple hundred. Commuting is pretty much same on gas, about 1,080, but you also have to take in rent. In Atlanta, at GIT, it's about 1,300 a month. So you can obviously split that with a roommate, but it's about 11,000 a month for a 9-month rent. So not really saving much, or if any. So AP, IB, and dual enrollment at GIT, it's pretty much the same for AP scores and IB and dual enrollment. Honestly, it's the same as ASU. Nothing really changes there. But there's this thing where if you get like early acceptance or enrolled early, you can't take any more AP or IB exams. It's kind of strange like that. So it's a lot lower than ASU, but still higher than Johns Hopkins with a 21.5% acceptance rate. The ACT and SAT scores are definitely higher with, as you can see, 33 for ACT and 1,300 at 1,460. GPA is a 3.3 minimum. Honestly, you probably won't get in if you have something lower than that, or if you do, you're very rare gem. So you need 2 essays to get in. Due to COVID, though, like on previous years, you'd have to do a long essay and a short essay, but this time there's just 2 short essays. So the first question is, why do you want to apply to GIT? And the second one is, there's just multiple prompts, and I couldn't really list it out. So yeah. Scholarships and financial aid. So they give scholarships based on financial need and not really your eligibility. Like you can still definitely get some, but it's more so focused on who needs it rather than what scores you have. So there are different types of scholarships, but I looked for a while and I just couldn't find much more besides the kind of small names. And then you can get excess financial aid, but you just have to go through different processes. This is the campus images. Voila. It's pretty big. It's interesting. The architecture looks cool from what we can see. I like the tower in the background. So for biomedical engineering, it's number 2 in the nation, which I kind of didn't expect. So it's right behind Johns Hopkins. And then nationally, it's ranked 35 in the nation. So that's pretty cool.
So our last university we're going to be talking about today is the University of Michigan. So their tuition ranges can be from around 15,000 to 51,000, which it's a pretty large range, but I'm assuming it has a lot to do with your types of classes. The room and board prices are around 11,000 for normal pricing. Out of like state people, it's it's like a range of more or less depending on like where they are or where they're coming from. Commuting, it's also similar in a way that there's no exact price. It's I would say around 11,000 again, but it just matters on where you are and how far you're leaving, like your home or something. So most universities have an AP-IB dual system. The University of Michigan is very similar to the ones that we talked about prior. The AP classes, you need to get good credit scores and you need to have around a credit, like amount of credit for hours for your type of class that you want to go into is around 5 for the engineering courses that I look through. For IB, it's basically the same thing, just the credit hours can be from 4 to 6. It just depends on if you're taking what type of engineering or perhaps science or whatever you're doing. And dual enrollment, it's the same as previously. It's just programs where you can take a class schedule for only 4 to 6 years, but you can get more from those classes. These are this is the campus or the images. It's pretty big and it's just pretty in general. And for ranking, in biomedical engineering, it's number 33. It's a bit behind the ones previously, but it's there.
Oh, I just
For
realized that we have the wrong stats for the slide, so just ignore this completely, please.
Oh, okay.
This is for ASU. I just realized. Whoops,
Makes
ignore
sense.
this, whoever's watching.
Michigan engineering, or I don't think it has that many different stats. And these are some videos on biomedical for both of the colleges
Mm-hmm.
for more information.
I'm pretty sure that Michigan's like top 10 for biomedical engineering, like
Good.
definitely up there. I'm like 90% certain of that, so don't quote me on it, but if anybody's interested. And like Kate said, here are the videos. They didn't really pop up, so we just put the links. And yeah, that's our presentation. Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you.
Thanks
Have a
for
nice day.
thanks for listening.